Hey y'all, I'm Stacey Gross, and this is not Two Moms Day Drinking, but this is a little offshoot of the project. Part of what I've been doing during the whole pandemic situation as everything was sort of falling apart early this year, I sort of dropped off in April, stopped uploading. There's update episodes about that, and I'm not going to rehash all that here, but through the course of things changing, I changed jobs. I am now a mobile phlebotomist with a blood bank here in northwestern Pennsylvania, and I do a lot of driving, and I also am one of those people who, as I'm driving, I see things that I either make a mental note of that I want to write about, things that I want to podcast about. I often also stop because there's just a perfect photo that needs to be taken, or a little vignette or weird little interaction that I want to video record. And so I find myself stopping a lot during these commutes. Some are long, some are short, some are right in town, some are over 2 hours away. So it just all depends on what I'm doing that day. But I decided to get a dash cam, and as someone who is creative, despite my best efforts, I cannot stop being creative, and so I'm constantly talking to other creative people. I have a few artist friends, some painters, some writers, some other podcasters, and then followers of the different creators that I also follow. Some of us have this one creator in common, and we find that we have a lot more in common as we talk and interact with one another. And so I try to keep lines of communication with all of those people open all the time, because I find that it's just a really helpful way to stay creative and to keep sort of in that creative mindset as I'm going about my day. If I didn't do that, then I would never have anything to write about. But basically, I got this dash cam, and I was talking to a few of these creative people, and they sort of let me know that they thought it would be a great idea if I just filmed like the highlights of some of these drives and either narrated them or podcasted to them or turned it into a little offshoot project. I'm not sure which direction I'm going to take it, or if I'm even going to continue it, but I was off today, and I figured I had to take my kids downtown, so I set up the dash cam and decided to take it out for a spin, and I decided for one little place that I could show you guys that were interested in seeing it was the Kinzua Dam. So basically, I'm going to give you just like a little video tour of my town, Warren County, Pennsylvania, and talk a little bit about the Kinzua Dam, about place. And this video is an hour long because I go to the dam and back. So there's a good cross-section of all the different sites that you could expect to see in Warren County, which is fun, but I'm not going to talk through the whole thing, so I just kind of set up some music. This is several just, little songs from the audio library, and then, of course, the opening and closing tracks written by my father, Bob Gross, on his goddamn electric ukulele. Just kind of as background music, and I'm not going to talk through the whole thing, but I'm just going to like bust in every now and then with some info, I guess. So as you can see, it's a rainy Sunday. It was a nice day for a drive. I'll be getting up. It's getting late. It's 9:54 p.m. and I am turning into a pumpkin, but I wanted to get the narration for this uploaded, and it's a long video, but I'm excited about I don't know if it's a new project or not, but just something different to occupy myself in between writing and podcasting. So it's been really hot here. I'm not sure what it's been like where you are, but I swear to God, I am the most unhappy person. I look like a sweaty cow everywhere I go. And all of last week, it was over 90 degrees. The humidity has been outrageous. But the last couple days, it's been just raining like hell, which is great. All the vegetation is really loving it. The animals, I know my chickens are really happy. They don't have to wait for me to come home to water them. They can just head over to the nearest puddle. Everybody's kind of really happy, and it's also broken the humidity, which is always the worst part of a hot climate. I'm not a hot weather person, but It can get pretty soupy here in northwestern Pennsylvania in the summer, especially when that humidity comes. So around this time of the summer, it's a kind of a cool transitional period. Springs here are like kind of frozen tundra, like the bottom part of a mountain, you know. It's cold, and it's kind of, then when it starts to warm up just a little bit, then it's mud season, and that's always fun. But this part of summer, I never look forward to like the climax of it, which is just kind of, we're turning the corner right now, but we're starting to get the rains, the fall rains, which has been great for the humidity. And I don't know, I think it just gives everything a nice fresh look. I love a good rainstorm, and it's a nice transition into fall, which is coming up, which is going to be all of our favorite seasons, mine and the girls. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but if I could find a place in this world where it's October all year long, that is where I want to live and die and haunt for the rest of eternity. So Warren County, Pennsylvania is a northwestern part of Pennsylvania, which is not Transylvania. I'm always bummed out when someone from the United Kingdom asks me, is that near Transylvania? And I have to say no. I wish. No, it's Pennsylvania. So we're on the edge of the Midwest in the United States, and it's just kind of rural. It's a really beautiful place. If you look at a map of the United States, you find Pennsylvania. We are in the top corner, so if you think of Pennsylvania, it looks kind of like a house with a chimney coming out the top on the corner. I'm in the corner between where the roof and the chimney would meet. As I was taking this drive, I tried to think of an album that could kind of just sort of create a mood that I wanted to create. Obviously, I'm not able to include copyrighted music that's not free because I'm poor. If you wanted to shut off the narration, if the narration just isn't for you, but you're kind of digging just like the vibe, taking a ride on a Sunday afternoon, and you want to listen to what I was listening to, let me see what that album was. I remember, let's see, I was listening to the album I Told You So, the unlimited hits of Randy Travis. It's country music. It's old-timey country music, not old-timey like 1800s, but like old-timey 1980s. So it's twangy and, you know, kind of laid back and chill, kind of like what's in the background. I tried to find something from the audio library that could kind of match the mood a little bit. But if you wanted to shut off the narration, you could also just watch the video along with listening to that album. You can stream it on Amazon Music, I'm sure. I know that for sure because that's what I did, but I'm not really an adult. I just got my first iPhone, so I've been using Androids up until this point in time, and I never use iTunes, but I'm sure it's on there as well. Things that I always like, and I have, you know, a history of less than pleasant interactions, a history of interpersonal issues. I tend to be anxious a lot, and especially at night, I have a really hard time with silence. And I noticed when I was a kid, I would always have something on TV and the volume would be almost down, but just enough to keep my brain. It's almost like an anchor. I need something to anchor me, or else the silence on its own is just too much. So I wind up down rabbit holes on YouTube at night, and one of the things that I've found is, so there's meditation videos. I can't tolerate a lot of voices because I'm pretty sensitive to different elements of voice, and there are very few voices that I can listen to for an extended period of time. It's a wonder that I listen to any podcasts at all, but the ones that I do, the narrator has a very distinctive voice. My very favorite podcast is Hidden Brain. If you ever have a chance to check that out, definitely do that. That's a really excellent podcast. It takes a lot of really philosophical, moral, psychological issues and theories and situations and makes them relatable through storytelling. It's another storytelling podcast that kind of meets at the junction of psychology and mental health. So, and just, human behavior, human psychiatric makeup. It's fascinating. Always something interesting. And Shankar Vedantam is an amazing narrator. He's super cool, funny, relatable, intelligent as hell, but in no way does he ever leave me feeling like I couldn't keep up, because he's just very personable. He's a great narrator. So one of the things that you might notice about this county already is that we've gone from dirt roads and almost no neighbors, and what neighbors there are have barns and are very likely Amish, heading into town now. This is sort of like a business service area of town. There's shopping north of me. I'm headed south on this major highway, this 4-lane highway through my rural community. And then we've got services, garages, there's a mental health clinic, just basic stuff. And then as you get into town, we'll be coming into the historic district. There's so much diversity in this county in terms of what you can see. And it reminds me a little bit, I have an aunt and uncle who live in Kona, Hawaii. And that has always been a really cool place for me to go because it's very small and self-contained, but there's a lot of diversity. It only takes a day to drive around the island, tip to tail if you wanted to. 2 days if you wanted to make a little weekend of it. It's a really cool place, but you can go from the bottom of the ocean to the top of a mountain, in a very short geographical space and space and time, really. I mean, and I've been to both there. I got my scuba certification there, and there's just so much diversity. I love it. And you're never bored. When you get tired of one environment, sometimes I think if you're creative or artistic, it's really easy to get bogged down by wherever you are, whatever your environment is. So if it's not an ideal one, it can be really easy to get distracted or wore down easily by that. So it's cool to live in a place where I can go from the woods to a decent, restaurant downtown, have a nice meal. I can go to a theater. We have it's called the Struthers Library Theater. It's named after one of the founders of Warren County. That would be another cool little video tour. If I could find somebody, I bet I could find somebody to still let me in there and maybe do a video tour. That'd be fun, but there's just so many different opportunities for different lifestyles here, and that's the funny thing about this place, though. Not a lot of people come here, and if they do, it's to visit, it's not to stay, and that's because while it is stunningly beautiful here, it's an Appalachian oil town. This town is built on the United Refining Company and other major manufacturers. We're very dependent on oil and the oil industry, and it's rural. It's economically depressed. I think something like 50%, over 50% of the children that my children go to school with are below poverty level, get free lunches, and that's a topic that came up in another in the comments section of another creator's Patreon page this week. These kids that rely on school for their lunches and for their food, that's a fascinating social issue that it has really had a spotlight cast on it recently, you know, through this whole COVID thing. You know, when these kids are not in school, there are kids who, you know, they're not starving to death. They have access to food, but to have access to nutritious food consistently so that they have a sense of like nutritional security, that's not a thing for a lot of kids that my daughters go to school with. That's messed up to me. We can do so much better. I feel like we can do so much better. You may notice there are a lot of churches, and then when we get to the other side of town, there are a lot of bars. But this is kind of the outskirts of the historic district, getting into the more service and business end of town now. And you can see the wealth. You can see that there's a lot of wealth here, and then there's different areas you'll see a lot of poverty. And I think that's just a function of the people who are born here and stay here tend to stay within their, you know, socioeconomic status. It's hard for people to get upward mobility in a place like this. There aren't jobs that are going to pay well unless you have a skill or a trade. Having a academic education is not necessarily the best thing here, because you're competing for a lot of jobs for which you're going to be overqualified. And if your education is less than a master's or more, you're underqualified for anything that you could do competently, but which would represent a step up for you. So there has to be a lot of bootstrapping in a place like this. It's easy for people to get depressed. There's a lot of mental health issues, a lot of addiction issues in this town, as there are in many small, you know, Midwestern Appalachian towns. It just is facts. Favorite places to eat is right here on the right, Cornerstone. Oh my God. I don't know where you're from. I know there's a lot of people who are not in the United States, and even a lot of people in the United States are probably gonna be like, you are trashy, but oh my God, they have chicken wings that are astounding. Fat Daddy's on the left also has great wings. Just saying, you get a curvy girl, you're gonna know where to eat in town. I'm just saying. So that little blip there, I had to drop my kids off, and I also had to run to get a cup of coffee because I don't do anything without legal addictive stimulants. And espresso is the easiest. I used to travel in this direction when I was finishing up my undergraduate degree. I would head this way out of town, and instead of turning down towards the dam, I would continue straight at the light next to the ice cream place, which I'll point out when we get there. But I spent so much time 5 days a week, and it was an hour and a half down, an hour and a half back every day, 5 days a week, you know, winter, spring, fall. all kinds of weather, and I loved it. I was alone in my car for an hour and a half at a time, and I think to this day it's the reason, like, I am an introvert, and I know that people don't believe that introverts actually have this problem, but like, I can attest to the fact that if we're gonna function at your level socially, like, we need so much more time to recoup, and it was such a great way to build that into my day. On the right, I used to tell my kids, this is all lit up. This is a gas refinery, petroleum refinery. So they take oil and turn it into gasoline here. And at night, all the lights are on. And I used to tell my kids it was the space station, but really it's just a refinery. It smells ridiculous every day. Some days it smells like bait. Other days it smells kind of like hot garbage. And I used to live right around here, and you get used to the smell. My husband was arrested, actually. One of the officers was from Harrisburg, and of course they'd never been around a refinery or not, for any kind of prolonged period, and they were just commenting on how can you live here? It's so stinky. That was messed up, like busting into somebody's house and then you tell them they live in the stinky part of town too? Come on. But it stinks. And actually, about a couple months, I lived down in this area for over a decade, over 10 years, after my undergraduate degree was finished, and during the period when I was married. You get used to the smell, it just goes away, you go nose blind to it. But then a couple months before, as I was getting ready to move out of town, I started smelling it again, and I was like, this is bad, because I can never ever not live in the country again, and this is going to be one of the reasons. The smell of rain, or just dirt, fresh cut hay, horse barns, leather, all the country smells. I couldn't live without them. On the left there was the Dairy Delight. That's a little ice cream place. They have a really teeny tiny little putt-putt golf place, but it's really cool around here because there are parts of like what you think of the 1950s being like that have never gone away. So that Dairy Delight back there, I don't know. You just picture people like, that's where you would take a date. That's where you would take your kid after a baseball game, after a Little League game. It's where you go with friends. It's where you go with your family to celebrate a birthday. Like, it's just a little hometown spot, and it's so innocent and just nice. And there's so little of that these days. I love places like that. I love that they're around here. I love that people still go to them, It's not like lame. It's still cool. Like, that's where you would take, as a woman, let me tell you, fellas, that's in Warren County where you take a girl if you want to show her that you're a gentleman and take her on a nice little cute date. You take her out, look at some stars, big fluffy pillows in the back of a pickup truck bed, nothing funny. You just being nice, and then you take her out to the Dairy Delight for an ice cream. That's what's fucking up. What was I thinking when I was 16 looking for them bad boys? So this is the road that leads to the Kinzua Dam. It's about 12 miles away, I think, from right around here. On the left will be the Allegheny River. It was voted River of the Year in 2017, I think. It's another, like the Kinzua Dam, it's a tourist attraction here. It's part of how we raise money through the tourism industry, which is, I think tourism is just as important around here as the oil and gas industry. We just haven't quite figured out how to wield it as powerfully as I think we could. But people have been coming here since the 1960s. And long before, for outdoor recreation. So we have glacial rock deposits are really cool, and I can show you where the entrance to those is. But it's like a jungle gym of rocks. There's just all these enormous boulders that are like growing out of the ground with trees growing out of them, and you can crawl through them and climb up them, and it's really cool. Trails, mountain bike trails, like kayaking is huge here. I almost got to go this weekend, but I'm a mom, so that did not work out. I'm just saying. Used to go kayaking a lot, and there are islands in the river. I tried to position the camera so you could see as much of everything as possible, and you'll see a little more of the river as we get up here, but there are islands in the middle of it. You can go like kayaking. You can take day-long kayak trips and like stop at these islands and like huck fin it out on the island. There's I interviewed a guy for the paper. He built a raft 2 years in a row. He and his sons built a raft and like floated down the Mississippi like Huck Finn. It was so cool. And they started out up here, I think, in Conowongo, which flows into the Allegheny, which flows down towards Pittsburgh. And the river is just such an enormous part of this county and this town. Lumber industry was huge back in the day, and they needed that river to float all those logs down to Pittsburgh. Everything went to Pittsburgh. Everything revolved around Pittsburgh. This dam was completed in 1965. It involved the taking of ancestral lands from the Seneca Nation of Indians by white people in order to prevent flooding in Pittsburgh. The Kinzua Dam. So the river that's flowing, we're following the river up to the dam, and behind that is now a giant lake where people go to drink beer and drive boats and fish. But underneath all that water, so Corn Planter was the chief, the Seneca chief at the time. The U.S. government just revoked all of this land that had been given to them, which is bullshit to begin with. Like, oh, here's a little corner of what's actually yours. We're just going to take the rest. Dicks. But this treaty was broken in order to build a dam so that Pittsburgh wouldn't flood, I think a lot about, like, everything gets so hard sometimes. My life gets ridiculously hard, and I struggle with so many things, but I think about where I am socially is, partly a function of what I look like and what my gender is, and that's just so messed up. It's like so random. You could be born into any kind of social system, and it's just bananas. Individual lives are like a dime a dozen, right? But they're all so unique, and what combination of circumstances had to come together to create this one life, That's why I think I find storytelling fascinating. You don't have to be anybody big or important. I love a good story with good characters, and I find that regular people generally tend to have the best stories, and they are better storytellers than the fancy people. Down the river in the other direction, if you were to follow this river in the other direction, the opposite direction, you would come to a bunch of tea towns, and I can't keep them all straight. There's Tityute, Titusville, all kinds of tea places. I can't remember the third one. Tynesta. I can picture each of them, but I can't tell you which one each one is. I can just picture the way the town is laid out, but I can't remember which town it is. But down there they have a Firefly Festival. I think it's in June. Fireflies weren't as spectacular this year, but that's another part of rural life that I fucking adore. I love fireflies. I love a campfire. I love the smell of a campfire. The smell of wood smoke. Ugh, I love it. Wood smoke and whiskey. I love those smells. Cinnamon. So we're coming up to the dam, and if you look off to the left, I don't know if I had the camera positioned properly such that you could see it, but directly across from the dam is this overlook, this outlying, like it's a glacial rock, and it's into this cliffside. We used to ride our horses, so our horse barn was over that hill to the left. If you just continue off to the left of your screen and just as the crow flies, go left, you will, 6 hours later, by horseback, you will wind up at the barn where I boarded my horses when I was a kid. And that was our long ride. So the woman who owned the barn, I paid board and kept my horse there, but she also did trail rides. So people would pay, to come and take a day-long trail ride or an hour-long trail ride, whatever. And that was the long ride. It was the Kinzua Dam ride. And so we would ride up to that overlook, and we'd be sitting on that other hill across the dam, just looking at all the cars going by like ants. It was so cool. It was a beautiful ride. Oh, and I used to do it alone sometimes just because 6 hours in the woods to me was heaven on earth with a horse. Best horse I ever had. Well, he wasn't mine. Jake was a Percheron Morgan Cross. He was enormous. You could sit cross-legged on him and ride him through the woods. He was like a tank, but so big and gentle, and he was super cool. On the right, you can see it a little bit here and up a little further, but when I'm coming back in the opposite direction, you can see better. There's just sheer rock cliffs, and there are signs that say watch for falling rock, and it's literal. Like, I have been going to school before and or going somewhere for the paper and just come across a fallen boulder, just a boulder in the middle of the road. It literally just fell off the side of the cliff and rolled into the road. Happens more often than one would expect. But there are really cool waterfalls that are coming down off of there, and that's a really sweet little spot too. It's too bad that it's right there by the highway. It's too bad they couldn't build it in some way and make it a spot to stop, put a little pull off, because it's really pretty. It was right around here. Boulder fell off. I had just started at the paper. It was one of the winter stories I had to do, and it took some getting used to going out in negative 10-degree weather to cover a boulder in the road. Local reporting. So right up here is kind of where I turned around, but before I did, I went across the Casey Bridge right up here around this curve. They're doing some road work on it, and it's a total bummer. It's one of those like automatic timed lights that takes 10 minutes to turn, so even if there's nobody coming else across the bridge in the opposing direction, you still gotta sit there. So I did cut some of the video from that. But it's a really cool vista on the camera. Oh my God, does not do it justice. I am disappointed. I am looking still for a camera that can do the Kinzua Dam justice while I'm driving, but it's hard. It's just, there's so much wide open space. I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I can breathe up here and at home, and then I get into town and I start coming down, the road gets paved and my muscles get tense, and You know, you start seeing more houses and less Amish buggies, and my muscles get a little more tense. And then, you know, that's why the commutes are so great. It's kind of like I can transition into town and kind of prepare my mind to have all of those interactions. Right up here on the right is the road up to the first little park that has glacial rocks. It's called Jake's Rocks. This is all Allegheny National Forest. That's another thing that you can look up if you're, you know, just interested in different places and want to do some exploring in Warren County. Any place in the Allegheny National Forest is amazing. Camping, hiking, horseback riding, boating, skiing, whatever you squatching, you can go looking for Sasquatches. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around here with this dam. Unidentified submerged objects. We got squatchers out the A. Aliens, Loch Ness Monster, river monsters. There's so many. If you're into fringe shit at all, this is the place to be. Off to the left is Wolf Run Marina. They do fireworks there every year. So this dam is like a U-shaped, and so there's little eddies and little, you know, places to pull in and little nooks and crannies that you can pull in on your boat and different camping areas. And this is one of the places you can pull off. They have a decent little restaurant. They do fireworks every year, so you can pull in on your boat, or you can go down to the marina and watch from the deck. I had friends who shut off fireworks. That is no joke. I don't know if you've ever been down in a fireworks like arena. Pyrotechnics is terrifying. So this is Kinzua Beach. I just turned around here and went back over the bridge. I kindly cut out all of the waiting in line for the 10-minute traffic light. It's just so beautiful. Like, oh, I can just feel it just looking at it on a screen even. I just feel like, oh, I need that much space to be able to take a full breath. I could never live in the city. I mean, I get to each their own, and that's cool. That's where you want to be, and that makes you happy, but I could never do it. I would wilt and die. This is Kinzua Point. I just pulled in here just to get a little shot of the lake. All underneath that water, man. There were towns there. There were lives there. You know, it just blows my mind. This is a place. So I did my pool work for my scuba certification here in town with our local scuba instructor, and then he just transferred all of my book work and pool work to Kona, where I did my certification dives. You have to do 4 open water dives and demonstrate that you are capable of not dying in a stupid way, for the most part. Just no guarantees because it's scuba diving, but that is another place that I have never felt more at peace than at the bottom, you know, beneath 60 feet of water. Just it's so cool. Nobody can talk to you. All you can hear is the fish, the pretty fish. But this is a place that I definitely want to dive someday, because apparently, you know, the roads are still there. There's still, you know, remnants of the lives that were lived in this little old-timey mountain Pennsylvania town, and I would love to dive down there and just see what I can see. Not as much visibility. You need a little bit of a thicker wetsuit. It's cold even in the summer. mentioned it earlier in the video, but you definitely got to check out Johnny Cash, Lake Perfidy. He wrote that song about this dam, this Kinzua crisis is how it was known. It was a crisis, and these lives were uprooted so that the government could flood the only place that was theirs, and it was bullshit that was what they had to settle for to begin with. And it's a really sad story. I love Johnny Cash's song. You should check it out, Lake Perfidy. I'll put a link in the description. There's also recently, it was September 2017, I think, a documentary was made about the Kinzua Dam. It incorporated a lot of interviews with people courting Kinzua. Off to the left is a really cool waterfall. You can hike up there. If you find yourself out this way, check out Bent Run. Hike up to the top of the waterfall. Beautiful, beautiful. All these people were removed from their homes and removed from their lives, and his song is excellent. I think it really captures the whole psychological, horror of it. On the left, you can see the waterfalls. This is where the rocks like to fall. You can see piles of them there on the side of the road. If I would quit panning the camera to try to look at the dam. I don't know who out there is sensory sensitive, but I would love to talk to more adults, older adults, people coming up on the big 4-0. Not that I am, I'm still 24, but people who are getting older and dealing with sensory issues or things that people think of as typically childhood disorders, because they don't go away. You don't grow out of them. You might learn how to compensate for them. ADHD is another one, and I have very strong opinions on that, but I'm curious, all you sensory sensitive folks, do you have a physical reaction to your environment a lot? And if so, what's your preferred environment? This for me, this is what it's all about. The river, the woods, the trees, gigantic cliffs of rock with water falling down them. I need to feel almost encapsulated by my environment, but if it's a chaotic environment, I am going to self-destruct swiftly. I need this much space, and I need this much just wildness, I guess. I can't be in the city. I love taking Sunday drives. I'm relaxed just watching this. There's a channel that I subscribe to on YouTube that's just a guy driving around, and he's funny. He talks a lot during his, and he's funny, but he drives around London, and it's just, I don't know, I love that. I love any kind of just kind of Chekhovian sort of just capturing the place, capturing the spirit of a place or the feeling of a place. Not everybody can do that. Even in a video, it's kind of hard to do, but I've tried to do it here, and I feel like my dude in London does that really well, so I'll share a link to his channel. And I use that stuff to fall asleep to. There are beings sensitive to, sounds. Even the texture of a voice, and a lot of people don't understand what I mean by that, but there's a very narrow criteria that you have to meet for me to be able to tolerate your voice for a very long period of time. And it's fascinating to me the things that are on YouTube. I really struggle with insomnia, sleep paralysis. I have since I was younger. So I rely on certain things to kind of trick my brain into falling asleep, because it's to the point. I mean, it's been 20 years I've been living like this, so sleep is a weird thing for me, but I have tricked my brain into not fighting sleep. I have to psych myself up for it, but then I found that these YouTube videos really do help. There's different channels and different people. It just depends on what mood I'm in. If I want comedy or something like this, just like a little guided tour of an area. Meditations are a big one. It's just hard to find good voices, so... I know this doesn't compare to Alaska, but that's like big on my list. I don't know. A lot of people, if you're into traveling, I guess you probably have bucket list places that you want to see someday, but Alaska is big on mine. I've always said I would love a place in Alaska for the summer, because the summer is tolerable there, and then down to Virginia, like for the winter, so you still get the snow, but if there's more than a foot of it, everything gets shut down. Here, if there's less than 10 feet of it, your ass better be at work. It's funny, even like rewatching the video, I'm coming back into town and I can just feel it. I can feel it in my body. I'm just fascinated by how our place, our environments affect us. It's a weird time weather-wise. Like, it's pouring one minute and sunny the next, and we're gonna be heading into tornado season here soon. The last few years, several years in a row, we've had at least one tornado come through here. It's weird. It's not something that was common when I was growing up as a kid, and it's like changing. It's becoming more the norm. Now it's 2020, so all bets are off. It could be a fucking Sharknado, who knows? That cute little ice cream stop. And people like to go there and feed the ducks too, and geese. I don't know why, because geese are Satan. They're evil little birds, big birds with scary beaks, and they're mean, but people go to feed them, and I get really ticked off. I always am on this soapbox about, don't feed ducks bread, you're gonna kill them. They're going to get all filled up on bread, and then they're not going to go eat what they need to eat to stay alive. And ducks have this like really needy nutritional profile. They really need a lot of nutrients from their environment. You go feed them a loaf of white bread, full of corn syrup and just die. Feed them frozen peas. You take frozen peas to your ducks and feed them from now on, people. This guy here with the sandwich board, I know you can't read it, but basically it's just him throwing a tantrum about having to wear a mask. It's a grown man with a sign on his bedroom door, an angsty teenager. It's a hard county to live in if you are left-leaning in any way. So they just came through here and painted these bikes on the road. This is new, and I'm confused. I feel like somebody messed up because some of them are on the side of the road, like where they belong. Like I'm thinking, okay, they're putting a bikeway in, that's nice. But then other ones are in the middle of the road, and I'm like not sympathetic. I bless your heart if you want to ride your bike through town, but stay on the side of the damn road. There on the right is a peppermill. I talked about that in one episode. I think it was the bonus episode, Psychic Old Ladies and My Grandfather's Death. I can't remember what the episode number was, but it was just like a little bonus bullshit session. It was a fun episode to do. I had a lot of fun thinking about my grandpa and thinking about my family in different ways. Funny, I'm like watching town go past and I'm like, oh, I know who lives up there. Oh, my friend from middle school used to live up that road. Oh, that's the girl that I worked with at Betts. It's funny, small town. It's so easy to put down roots here. You just get involved whether you mean to or not, and then it's hard to leave even with all of its flaws. Moving over for a bike if it's in the middle of my lane. Maybe I'm a dick. Probably a dick. I don't care. I'm not stopping for a bike in the... See, I don't think those bikes are supposed to be in the middle of the road. They're supposed to be on the side. Guys, come on. Somebody's embarrassed today. Oh, there, he got it right. He figured it out. Now they're on the side where they belong. That's gonna stress me out. That's gonna be, oh, that's gonna bother me that they're not where they're supposed to be. And they're so permanent. Man on a bike. I'm about to turn here, but if I were to go straight across the bridge, that's where Timmy Ho's is, Tim Hortons, and that is where I go every morning for coffee when I'm in town. When I'm not in town, I go to Starbucks, but I pull up and all I have to say, I say the words, "Can I get a large Americano, please?" And they don't even have to specify, like I have a specific, like I like it with chocolate and honey and a little bit of cream, and they know me by a large Americano because I'm the only person that orders them, and I'll say, "Large Americano, please," and like 3 people will come on the intercom and be like, "Hey, how are your chickens? Hey, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, have you been to Erie lately? You want the honey in it? You want the 2 creams, right? Yeah, how's your chickens? I love living in a small town. Scandia, that sign on the right side of the road. Scandia, that's where I got my horse. So across where I was saying that hill, 6 hours this way, is where my horse is. Right here is one of the places you can really kind of get an idea of the difference in lifestyle. Back there were big, huge, Victorian mansions, and now here's a tenement house. It's ridiculous. They're having one of my friends lives, if I were to go straight here, he lives down that way, and he's got one of the big fancy Victorian homes. He's a very nice man, but he's fancy pants. And he's organizing Front Porch Day. I think it's August 6th and 7th. I can't remember, but everybody's just supposed to go out on their porch and like be nice to each other and just say hi to their neighbors, or go for a walk and say hi to people on their porch. How cool. How can you not love a place like this? On the left is our art gallery. It's beautiful. That would be another great tour, maybe. We'll see. This 4 lane stresses me out. So this is like the major artery of Warren, the city of Warren. And so that you can see there's nowhere to turn. Like the Conowago Creek is to your right. There's a giant hill to your left. And there's nowhere on this stretch of road to turn, but someone inevitably always gets like between me and the car ahead of me, but in the other lane. So he'll go too slow for anybody to pass him, but the people behind him want to go a little bit faster, and he's just hanging out over there. It's like the biggest pet peeve. I get so stressed out about these little interactions. This is why I can't even handle the 4 lane in North Warren. I cannot be living in a city. Big Joe's. That place has been there since I was a kid. Since I can remember. So many of these places have been here since I can remember. Originally, we lived on a farm up on another hill in the opposite direction, but then we moved down here to North Warren when I was about 14, and I used to like walk down here and rent videos and stop at the BP and get a candy bar. All these places, they're so familiar. How can you not? I don't know. There's something cool about it. A lot of people would consider it stagnation, but I don't know. People who've lived in the same house their entire lives and they're in their 60s. They grew up there. They were born there. They grew up there. Inherited it from their parents. I love that. That's contented. I had to stop up here. I had to get chicken feed, okay? I'm sorry. This is like this is where you go if you want to go on a fancy date. you take her to Applebee's. Across the road on the right-hand side, that's the state hospital. That might be a cool. You're not supposed to take video up there though because of HIPAA, but it was a mental illness. It was an asylum for a while, and state hospital. That's where you sent the people who didn't have the money for really great care for a while, but they had mental health issues. Their families couldn't care for them. It was like its whole little farm colony. They had a greenhouse, they had barns, they raised animals. There are signs along this part of the highway that say do not pick up hitchhikers, and that's because there was also a forensic unit, so there were some people who committed some pretty heinous crimes that also had mental health issues wound up there. About to head out of town and back up the hill, and I only left this in here so you could see the transition. I wanted to give you like a full, this is Warren County, part of Warren County, but this transition from town into the woods, it's so relaxing. I'm so fortunate. I count myself lucky every single day that I get to come home and stop my car where I do instead of downtown by the refinery, with all the lights and the noise and the people and the smells and I'm already getting yawny. It's also getting late. I am an old woman. It's far past my bedtime. So for all my creative folks who kind of workshopped this idea with me and asked for a guided tour of someplace cool in Warren County, let me know if you enjoyed it, and if so, I will maybe do another one. I drive every day, so there are plenty of places to see and plenty of things to say and plenty of free music on the audio library. This song, however, as I always let you know at the end of all my podcasts, was written and produced by my father, Bob Gross, on his goddamn electric ukulele. So thanks for riding along, and enjoy the rest of your night. I'm about to go the fuck to sleep, as Samuel L. Jackson implores. Night night, kids.